A few days ago, we had the great Ben Erdt with us to do a few portfolio reviews. We had invited a few Outgang members to come live on Twitch and present their portfolio, and Ben and I took turns to give them feedback afterward. It was a very in-depth discussion of what makes a great portfolio, and there were a lot of very actionable tips in there for anyone who is listening to this who is looking to build a character art portfolio. Both Ben and myself are professional character artists with many years of experience. We've either been hired ourselves a few times at different studios, have hired ourselves people, or have seen others get hired or not, simply based on the strength and the weaknesses that they were showing through their portfolio. So if you're interested in character art and what especially makes a great character art portfolio, I believe that you will find this discussion extremely interesting. So without further ado, here's Ben Erdt with us to do some portfolio reviews of Outgang members. Enjoy. Ben, how are you doing?
Pretty good. I'm excited and I'm nervous, but that's normal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fine. I mean, if you're nervous, I can't imagine all the participants that we have right now. So we have Diego who's here. We have Jessica who's here. We have quite a few of you who have already joined us. You all have blocks of 15 minutes that are scheduled. We do have a schedule to go through, so we will go through you in an orderly fashion. So the first one that we have to present to us is Diego. Diego, how are you doing, my friend?
Hello, I'm good. How about you?
Pretty good.
Tell us a little bit about what it is that you are looking for with your portfolio as far as a career move is concerned.
Okay. Game design is something that I'm very interested in. So perhaps 3D might be the good place to start in order to get the assets, maybe then game designing and so on. Yeah. The last project that I made is that one, the Cobalt Mischief.
The one from Think Tank?
Yes.
Yeah, nice.
Yes, that was a project made like 2 months ago. No, a month ago. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How much time did you have to make it a Think Tank? I think you have like 10 weeks, 12 weeks. I don't quite remember.
10 weeks, but
10 weeks.
Something happened with this project very particularly. When I fell into stagnation and I couldn't get it done properly. And when I had to finish it, I had to finish it technically a year ago. And after that, I got burnout and.
Oh, okay.
And I dropped it completely and I stopped making projects altogether. And just a month ago, I decided to get it done. In actual time work, I could say maybe 2-3 months, but I learned a lot from this. And with this project, I know what to do and what not to do and what things to prevent and what things to be on the lookout.
Nice, man. I mean, it looks pretty cool actually. For 10 weeks. I mean, you said you had it on hold for almost a year because you had a burnout. Right? Yeah, burnout is it's not a joke. It's pretty serious. But I'm glad you made it out of it, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's quite a nice piece, and what I like definitely in that portfolio is you do something that I've seen not many artists want to do is hair. Hair is something that's it's quite a discipline.
I'm actually sorry for interrupting. I'm actually on the lookout of getting into that discipline and becoming a groom artist. That project, I like that project because it gave me so much freedom in a creative sense.
Have you applied for jobs as a hair specialist?
Yes, there are not so many positions open. Not that I have seen. I have seen more of that positions in outsourcing, but not so much in game companies.
Okay.
There is definitely positions like that in game studios. There's quite a few studios that do hire people specifically for hair. Obviously there, you are competing with other people who are also hair specialists, but that's usually in pretty big demand. And there's not a lot of people who want to do hair. That's the thing with hair, So Ben, do you have any particular feedback to give Diego on his haircuts?
Right off the bat on this one, on this side here, I would just say the transition from the hair onto the scalp, you might need a little bit more of a fade in. You can see like where the seam line is between skin and hair. That's the only thing I would see like needs to be worked on. So there's ways and tricks people do that with an extra poly shell that has a sculpt and some textures on it with an alpha that blends in it, or smaller hair strips. But yeah, for instance, this is something that I see always being edited on in games, like the transition. But if you manage to perfect that, you're gold pretty much. So going for hair is absolutely, I think, absolutely a plus. I would still do characters, but then characters that have a lot of hair or fur, especially, maybe kind of an ogre or a wolf character that has a lot of fur, and you can experiment with that. So you do human hairstyles, and then you go to fur, or you do beards. Another character could be with a beard. If you like specialize in hair, that's awesome. That's great. Then keep doing characters that makes you doing hair, like with beards and everything. A good example, I think, is Johan. You remember Johan?
Johan Lidval, yeah, that guy.
Johan Lidval.
Yeah. He started as a junior at Gorilla, and he developed interest for making hair, and then he spent 2 years making Aloy's hair, and that was his profession. And when he left, he became an expert in it. So,
like, that's the target to hit. Like, if you're trying, I mean, I don't think you need to be that good necessarily to get a job as far as hair is concerned, but if you are looking for a target to hit, this is the target to hit. One thing I would actually do is that I would look at the way that Johan is making the hair look very messy, and almost to the point that you really can't tell apart the individual hair cards. Like, the hair is so kind of organically well put together that the separation between the hair cards becomes very hard to read. You really can't tell what is hair card. Like, it's kind of convincing as a haircut. Like, it looks like real hair. When I compare with your hair here, there's a lot of places where I feel as if I can feel the strips of polygons, like these kind of strands that are here. It would be nice to break them up even more, because like right now, like this particular, if you follow my particular cursor down, like this feels like one strip of polygons. But if this was like two and they were kind of a little bit offset, if they were sort of organically snaking around each other in a way that's a little bit more broken up, like you could really break up the feeling that these are individual hair cards, And like different places here too. Like if I look at the hair around here too, I feel as if I can kind of tell a little bit too much where the actual hair cards are.
Yeah, you can actually see the texture sets.
There's also something about thickness, perhaps, of like hair. If I compare here, like we have some very wispy hairs here in the front, but I guess I'm just coming back to this particular strand that is here, but it feels like the hair is kind of thicker. Like there's like these kind of thick hairs that are sort of running down there. I'm not actually quite sure what's going on there.
Awesome. Okay.
What do you usually do to study like hair into? Do you go to, let's say, a hairdresser, or do you look into like magazines, or you just look at people, or?
No joke. I have a lot of videos on YouTube of hairdressing, and it's very useful because you can actually see the process of how it's broken down the hairstyle, which clump goes where, and how it interacts between each other. So it is very cool to see hairstyle videos.
That's exactly, just absorb the knowledge, and you can also do you also play games with characters like Last of Us that have all this hairstyles too?
It's been so long since I think that the last game that I played was maybe not so long, but Elden Ring. I finished it, and after that, I haven't got the chance of playing another game.
That's fine.
But yeah.
So yeah, but if hair is something that interests you, keep doing it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You've seen the benchmark, like Johan. I think it's always great to have those people who are miles ahead of you, so you can still push, which is nice, and they keep inspiring you. And then keep making also characters that support you making hair with beards or fur or something. And then if there's a game or a studio you would love to work on, do something that could fit into that maybe.
Yeah.
Because I personally always say put stuff in your portfolio that you would love to do. And to me, it looks like you like to doing hair, so you're not shying away from that. And this character, Kenzo, he looks like he fits into a game called Shadow Warrior, which is a pretty awesome game. Like it has like the co-op shooter. But if there's a game out there or a genre or a style that you would love to do in your career, do something for that, for instance. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but it's just a suggestion. Yeah.
Okay. I'll keep it. Thank you so much for the suggestion.
Just a closing thought here, Diego. Looking at your portfolio pieces that you have, we often say that your portfolio is only as good as your weakest piece that you have in there, And I would say that right now, like there's a very clear sense of progression in your skills when we look at your portfolio pieces there, which I think is really, really cool, But what often happens in that case is that the pieces that are within a portfolio that have been there for the longer are usually may actually hold you back, Your particular Loretta character that is here, I think it looks really, really cool. All of these haircuts that are here look really, really cool. But this particular piece that is here, someone who actually looks at your portfolio and comes across that particular piece may actually get a more negative feeling for your skills because of that particular piece is there. So I would actually question whether it's worth to keep that piece within the portfolio or not.
Okay. Thank you so much for everything, for your time, for doing this also. It's a lot of help. Thank you. By
the way, I just want to say very big thank you to Ben, because it is Ben's idea that we are here. He's actually the one who came up to me and he's like, hey, like we should probably do this. That would be like a great thing to do. And I'm like, yeah, Ben, like that sounds like a really cool thing to do. So speaking about
I'm not a streamer. I'm not a YouTuber. I'm pretty low profile online. So without Laura, I couldn't do this. So she did all the hard work organization wise. So kudos to her.
I'm just a technician. Sure. All right. Next we have Jessica. That is Jessica. Are you there?
Hey, I'm here. Hello.
Nice. So, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself, your portfolio, and what it is that you are aiming for as far as a career is concerned?
I'm a 3D artist right now. My role was initially to break into the industry, and luckily I am right now working in the industry. But I am specialized in characters and creatures. I just graduated from Think Tank Online also. But my next goal is to actually get a role in the character field, right? And I've been applying for those roles, but I'm only being called for 3D artist or generalist roles. So my question would be, what can I do to actually get those specialized roles?
In your description, you apply for 20 plus studios or jobs.
Yeah, that's correct.
They offered you junior artist roles, even though you have 4 months of experience already?
Oh, yeah. I had a role before, 6 months as a 3D artist. And the next one that I received, like the offer, was for a junior 3D artist. So that kind of confused me a little because I already was a 3D artist. It kind of felt like going backwards.
I started as a junior, and then after a year, I got to regular. Within the studio, when you switch jobs, it rarely happens that you downgrade. You start as a junior and then you switch jobs after a while, then you're usually automatically regular. What kind of, was it like a character artist role that you applied, the second one?
No, for 3D artist as well.
3D artist? And it was an unannounced project, I guess, right? So they were not very specific what they need.
What I would tell you is that, like, your first of all, your portfolio has to reflect exactly what it is that you want as a role, Like, if your role is to do only a character art, then the portfolio has to be only of that, So like, that's the first thing that I would actually think about. So like, which actually makes me wonder whether this piece here actually belongs in there. It's very nice, but I'm not sure that this is necessarily the type of character art that people would actually be looking to hire you for.
So breakdowns are awesome. It's always good to show breakdowns, like especially wireframes. If you do character for games, that means you are able to not just make a nice sculpt. You're expected to bring it into the game. So high res, low res, UVs, texture into the game. And here this is pretty cool because you break down the individual parts, what your process is. You do a turntable. So presentation is nice. You show the UVs, you show the wireframe. That's a good attitude to have, definitely. If you want to do character artists for games, have at least 3 out of 5 pieces like fully done for a game engine. Like 2 pieces can be a sculpt or a sketch, right? You trying out new designs or new styles, but 3 of them should be an actual character, like high poly, low poly textures, and then in the game fully. The statue is nice. It looks quite nice, but it's an asset that's more fits more in an environment artist portfolio. It's good that you are able to do it if you have to, right? If you're a smaller team and you're like, yeah, I've done environment stuff before, I can help you guys out. But if your main force is character art, then character art for games should dominate the portfolio, right?
I hate to say this, okay, and I don't know whether saying this live is even a good idea or not, but I will say it regardless. When you open a job, like when you work at a AAA studio and you open a job posting somewhere, okay, often in the first week of that job posting, and it doesn't really matter if you are trying to hire for like a junior or a senior role, like the first few days that you open the job posting and you actually say to the world, hey, we are actually looking to hire people to do character art in this particular project there, you will get like hundreds of applications, quite literally. Truth be told, you can actually only usually spend a few seconds per portfolio. Like a portfolio has to attract and has to be very clear as to what the portfolio represents as far as the skills of the person is concerned. And like you have to be able to look at someone's portfolio like this, and within a few seconds, I have to be able to tell, okay, this is the kind of role that she wants to do. And usually we can only spend a few seconds on a portfolio. And if the portfolio doesn't actually like grip us, visually speaking, then often we'll just look at someone else's portfolio. And because when you get hundreds of people sort of applying for like a role, if you only spend a few seconds in there and you kind of triage people based like that, you still will be able in the end to probably get somewhere between 10 to 20 portfolios that have a lot of promise there, So to make sure that you are selected to be one of those 10 to 20 people, the quality of the thumbnails has to be extremely good, first of all. This is like when you do YouTube, okay, which I've actually learned because that's what I do now. Thumbnails actually sometimes matter more than the content that is within there. Because like people will actually like look at the thumbnail and then will decide whether they click on the thumbnail or not. If they don't click on it, everything that is within the piece will never matter, And so the thumbnails themselves have to communicate clearly, this is the role that I want, this is who I am, this is how good I actually am. And so spending a lot of time to make sure that the thumbnails are extremely solid and that they clearly communicate the message that you want them to do is very, very important there, The portfolio itself has to communicate extremely clearly, this is who you are, and everything else, just get rid of it.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. No, it's super helpful.
It doesn't mean the pieces are bad. It's just they belong in a different portfolio, probably. Yeah. But yeah, Laura is absolutely right. You get swamped with portfolios in the beginning, and you start with a couple of hundred, and then you end up into the tens. And within those tens, you look at particularly what are they pretty strong at individually. So, but I think the presentation here is already quite good. You're thinking about how would this character be rigged? Would it work? You show your wireframes, you show your textures. That's already pretty good because there's more people than you working in the studio, and you know it, right? You've been in it for a couple of months now. What would be left here would be this guy and the crocodile duo. The crocodile is a sculpt, right? If he would be a real-time character, that would be even better because you've done like two things. You've done a human character and you got like an anthropomorphic character. So show a bit of variation. So whatever your next project is, and you should be like a real-time game character.
Ben, do you have any perhaps artistic feedback on this particular piece here?
On this one, I would say like the big thing is that most of the surfaces are dark. So from a distance, the shirt, for instance, wouldn't pop away from the pants. And also the belt is pretty much in the same color realm. So is the accessories. Now I'm seeing he has a gun, or is it a spray gun or something?
It's a crossbow.
Oh, the crossbow. Yeah, we saw. The glove. So everything is kind of dark. So I would say if the pants look like there's looks like some denim material from the pattern, from the weave pattern. Make it some jeans that are ripped apart. So you got the blue jeans. On top of that, you can do like brown belt, for instance. Boots, yeah, they can be black because they will pop out more. The laces should be a brighter color, something. Or do you have the shoes a different color and the laces are black? What would be cool maybe on those is maybe a metal cap. The big point here is contrast. Contrast in color, contrast in reflection. You can do a lot with roughness as a material that's shinier right next to material that's rougher. You can make those pop. And contrast in color hierarchy, so which is the dominant color of the character, which is the secondary, and so on. So that's something I would push on this one. Because if you zoom out, right, if you squint your eyes, it will be one black dot probably. I personally love going with complementary colors, background versus character, to get the most contrast. But it's just a suggestion.
Okay. No, yeah, I'll keep a look at that. Thank you.
Other than that, keep going. It's a long road, but it's doable. Absolutely. Don't worry when you stagnate.
Maybe for myself, some closing thoughts here. If I kind of look at your skills in an sort of individual basis, right? Like we look at your sculpting skills versus the rendering skills or like the shaders, these sorts of things. I feel as if your sculpting skills are much, much better than perhaps the work that you have done or the skills that you are showing through shaders, lighting, presentation, these sorts of things. And I think that is kind of holding the piece back a little bit. Like you could literally take this particular character and just do a pass and just work on the shaders, improve the skin shader, improve the cloth shaders, improve the lighting within the scene. I'm not really seeing much shadows in here. Even when I look at the boots, there's just not really much of a contact shadow. Like there seems to be a very, very, very slight, very diffuse shadow, but it's barely there, really. Like it would be nice to see better shadows within the scene that really help to make the volumes pop. So like take a look at shaders, lighting specifically, and just overall presentation, and I would definitely think of what Ben has been saying about complementary colors, these sorts of things, because I think that this piece can be much, much, much better with a small amount of time if you do invest that time into looking into creating better shaders and a better lighting setup. Because I think that the modeling, like, it looks pretty solid to me. Yeah. Like all of those folds here, like this is really, 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 really cool. But it's kind of being held back right now a little bit by the presentation.
Okay. Yeah, I'll work on that. Thank you a lot.
If you're interested to be notified next time that Ben and I host a portfolio review session, you can actually sign up for Outgang's newsletter by simply going to outgang.studio. It is through Outgang's newsletter that we will announce first our future portfolio review sessions. So make sure that you are subscribed to that if you don't want to miss out next time that we host one of these. Don't forget also to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you like this kind of content and you would like to see more of it in the future. I believe we have Mario up next. Mario, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Ready to be sacrificed to the 3D gods.
What brings you here? What is your portfolio targeted for? What are you trying to achieve as a goal with your portfolio?
Well, it's been quite a ride from portfolio because I really want to do very cyberpunk things. And I've been looking a lot into that. But even then, I think I'm going to go more hard surface. It's going to be something like a frame girl, if those who make Gunpla knows. For a friend that asked me to do one. So I'm going to do basically also a girl with hard surface armor and with a Gundam armor on top. So that's something that I'm going to do next.
So you want to do characters, but now you want to focus more on the hard surface side of things.
Yeah.
Mainly for Unreal.
Yeah, mostly.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I can see in the background you have quite some Gundams on your window.
Oh, so yeah.
You must have some hard surface passion, which is quite nice. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, been watching anime and Power Rangers and I was like 5 now, so yeah, I love robots.
Nice.
So you try applying for jobs with this particular portfolio right now?
With this right now, it was before I put this character on.
Okay. I suppose when we're talking about applying for jobs here, it wasn't necessarily to get hired to do hard surface though, right? It was just to do general character art?
No, just there's no character art, yeah.
Okay. What can we help you with then? Because you are looking to veer towards hard surface, but your portfolio does not really show a lot of hard surface. So obviously the advice here would be to do hard surface, but
yeah. No, well, right there for the last one, the Space Cup that I posted, it was more like I've been like trying to iterate in the character general kind of sense, face, body, clothing. So I decided to do something that every time that I started doing it, it was like a good memory for me to keep pushing forward.
Yeah.
Okay. I think the thing that strikes me about this piece is I like the modeling, especially for the folds and stuff. This is really, really cool. I love all the folds there. That's like super, super nice. The thing that I feel is holding this piece back would be the anatomy of the face. And perhaps the hair too. Ben had said something very interesting about the way that hair blends with the scalp, It strikes me as this might be something here to improve as well.
This one I tried doing haircuts in Blender for the first time.
Oh, using what's that tool called where you can actually draw the hair cards and has the textures on it already? There is a nice tool in Blender that does that, or an add-on.
The hair tools, I think is named.
I think so. Yeah, I think it's called hair tools.
Yeah, I found about it after I finished this one.
All right. Okay. Yeah, but yeah, this is how we learn. But cool that you try and Blender out as well. It's quite nice. More and more studios are using it right now. Just cool. So if your goal is to do characters and hard surface, yeah, like Laura said, like narrow your portfolio down to exactly just that, with the focus on improving your anatomy for sure. And anatomy, proportions, facial anatomy, because the best looking hard surface armor doesn't save a character whose proportions and anatomy is not correct, right? It will always pop out. So if you like to keep doing characters, yeah, focus on the human anatomy, get that one right. Do your studies on the side. You don't have to like do studies now for an entire year and then you do your characters. I would say always do some studies on the side, some facial studies, just sculpting in. Focus on that. And I would say also the hard surface part, because that's a huge discipline on its own. And push back maybe on the creature stuff, push back maybe on the environment. You have like a guitar right there, which is cool to do, right? I did one too, but I never put it in my portfolio because this is not what I want to do as a job, right? So for characters, what you could do is, let's say you do a cyberpunk rocker with hard surface armor and he plays the guitar. You can still use that guitar, maybe polish it a little bit and give it to that character, right? You don't have to throw away or like here, yeah, you've pretty much like that. So you've done it. So there's always an opportunity to do props as long as they're gadgets for a character. Right now I'm doing a personal project where I'm modeling a chopper, a bike, a motorbike. I've never done one. So I started with it in the beginning, but I have a character that's going to ride it. So it's part of the character's background story. So it's always good to do that. But in the beginning, yeah, focus on your anatomy and the hard surface parts. And then next in line would be whatever you would love to do. Focus on the clothing, how to do different types of clothes, especially the cyberpunk. They would have quilts and puffer jackets and all this stuff. So this is a discipline on its own. There's people who specialize in that. So try to find like a road, like 3 main things you focus on first, and then try the other things. Trying to do all at once means, yeah, you do everything, but everything is not like maybe at 50% or 60%. Like do 3 things at 90% or 95, and then do focus on the rest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been thinking doing a series of more focused, like I said, more focused jobs, like something only the top of the body. And
exactly, like a bust could work as well, if it's well executed. Exactly. So if it's characters and hard surface for sci-fi or cyberpunk, first thing would be maybe clean the portfolio up a bit, remove things that are, like Laura said earlier today, that are older, that are more outdated, and that are not really hard surface or your main subject related. Oh, I think you switched around on that website maybe too fast. 20 times. Oh, you're DDoSing. There we go. Do you have any questions about that, or?
No, well, lately I've been thinking the same, that I should like maybe give it a pass and try to focus a little bit more. But it's difficult because one of the reasons that I've become quite black pill working here for a studio in Mexico is they don't like someone that only do character for real time in games.
They don't like people who only do characters for real time for games?
Yeah, I that's the impression I got. I've been butting heads with a lot of people and using a lot of ZBrush and Blender and less Maya each time. I'm also teaching right now. It's the only job that I could get for the past year. And I'm basically the only person in the whole school that knows, the only teacher that uses Blender. A lot of people don't like that I only import a whole body, and then I start working in ZBrush, doing all my blocket and ZBrush, doing my hard surface modeling in ZBrush, very little bit maybe, and then at the end going to Maya because they think no, you should start in Maya, you should do box modeling in Maya for the whole character, then put it in ZBrush and detailing only ZBrush. So it's been like a weird road for me here.
Yeah, it's quite a roller coaster, it seems.
Yeah, that's interesting. Obviously, like, if the studios around you, like, a great thing to do is to obviously figure out what it is that the studios around you kind of like to hire for, like, and then be like, okay, if I want to work there, then, I want to have a portfolio that's going to reflect what it is that they are looking for. By the way, just a quick thought like that that's kind of going through my mind here as I look at your portfolio here. I just wanted to mention that here. This is going to come across a little harsh. I apologize, okay, but I'm just not sure how to say this in any other way. So I'd rather just give it to you straight. I feel as if some of your characters are from, let's say, 10 to 15 years ago in terms of rendering. Like, the rendering, I think, is really something important for you to focus on. Like, which is kind of what we were saying with Jessica before about rendering shaders. Like, truth be told, I probably have, and I probably tell this to like most people to begin with. I find that presentation, okay, matters as much, and sometimes it matters even more than the actual work itself. And for me, when I think of presentation, I think of the lighting, I think of rendering, I think the quality of shaders, I think of giving the character a pose, I think of maybe having a very slight background. You have some of those things here, but it's always something that we have a tendency to put on the side. We're like, okay, so like I'll spend 3 months on the sculpting in like ZBrush, and I'll spend quite a lot of time in there, and then I'll spend a lot of time on retopology as well, and perhaps the textures. But the further along we get within the development of a character, often the less time we'll spend on each step. Like we'll spend a lot of time on the high poly sculpt, and maybe we'll spend a lot of time in a marvelous designer, these sorts of things. But usually, like you can kind of tell that like things like textures, things like shaders, they usually get like perhaps, I'm just going to throw out numbers here, but someone may spend like 3 months on like the sculpting and kind of everything that has to do with the high poly, but they'll only spend maybe like a few days on the textures and the shaders, Whereas those things actually matter as much as the high poly sculpt, because it's important that you show your work under the best possible light. That's a pun. That's not intended, but I think it works pretty well in this particular context here. You need to show your work under the best possible light, because that actually influences people. Sometimes they won't necessarily think about it. It's going to be unconscious, but it will kind of affect them. If the rendering is kind of holding back the character, it will reduce the overall value that they will perceive within your own skills, So that's something to think about here, because that's one of the biggest things that I can see within all your portfolio pieces here, is the fact that the rendering can be improved. Like this particular haircut that is here, it's kind of the same thing. Like the haircut looks really good, but there's no shadows in here. The specular, it's very, very consistent. Like it's very flat. It's like this kind of flat white that's kind of everywhere. So I feel as if there's some really interesting stuff happening here with a braid. And I feel as if you spent quite a long time to make something here that's really cool in terms of modeling wise. But there's no shadows, so we can't really tell that braid apart from like everything else. The shading is also kind of flat, so you also can't really tell things apart. So looking into getting some proper shadows within this particular rendering is going to make a world of difference,
Okay.
Okay.
No, thanks. Thank
Hope
you a
we
lot
could help
for
you there a
time.
little bit. Yeah.
No, a lot. I was. You put a lot of the ideas that I was trying to focus or like put down in there. You helped me a lot, both of you, to really focus on what I should do.
All right. Good luck,
Cool.
Mario.
Thanks for your time, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for your time. All right. Who do we have next? Kenny. Kenny, are you there, my friend?
Yep. Here I am. Hope I'm not echoing.
How you doing, man?
Doing well. Still
good.
a little bit nervous, even though I've had plenty of portfolio reviews.
So, Kenny, what brings you here? Have you tried applying for jobs? How has your job application been going with this particular portfolio?
Yeah, so I've been working as a professional for the last 4 years, though I never managed to get into the gaming industry. And I would love to finally make the jump. Currently, I'm at a healthcare visualization company. I think that's as close as I can get with putting a name on it.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense when you look at a portfolio and you have like sort of écorchés like this that you would get that kind of job, perhaps.
So exposed to anatomy, which is good for characters.
Yep, that's one of the foundation levels that everyone keeps hammering on. So I have been focusing on that.
Got some studies.
Yeah, the Scott Eaton figure sculpting class. I I was still rendering on it until late last night. So trying to get it done for this review.
All right. So you've tried applying for jobs in games?
Yeah, the company I've been applying the most to is Guerrilla Games.
Yeah, I mean, I think you had applied there while I was actually the lead there, so I probably turned you down at some point. I want to apologize for that. That makes this conversation kind of weird.
The skills I had back then as like a legitimate fresh graduate, I'm like, hi, here's my school projects. Are you impressed? I was like, nah. Stick around for a few more years and then keep trying.
And you did. I mean, there's new stuff. There's new cool stuff there. So,
yep,
which is nice.
That's the thing to do. I mean,
yeah,
you know,
just keep going. Exactly.
Keep going.
It's not a shame to get knocked down. It's a shame not to get back up.
You'll get the job that you want at some point. You know, like that's kind of the harsh reality of like working for like studios, and especially the bigger studios. And Guerrilla Games is definitely one of them. There is that, fortunately, so many people want to work there, and there's so few jobs there that great people get turned down all the time because there's just no space. You know, it's just we just can't actually physically hire people like that. You know,
I think it's also like looking for very specific palette of tasks that the character is supposed to do. If it's a AAA studio that does like photoreal graphics, and they're looking for a character artist or character support artist, which is mostly has to do with polishing, some shader work, integration, and all that, and you apply with a portfolio that is good, but it's not exactly what the tasks of what matches the task description, what they're looking for, that doesn't necessarily mean you're a bad artist. It's more like they're looking for someone that can do something different, you know, something more specific. This could also be a reason.
Yeah, no. Like, I think what you're saying, Ben, is very true. You know, because when I look at what's in your portfolio right now, Kenny, I don't feel the Guerrilla Games in there. It's a different style of character. It's a bit more on the realistic side, and you know, like obviously, like the best thing you can do is just look at what is it they're doing on Horizon. I mean, I have no idea whether they're going to work on a follow-up to like that or not, you know, but it's a pretty successful game. So, you know, you can probably gamble that they will at some point work on a sequel. So the best thing you can do is just, you know, look at the kind of characters that they are actually doing there and be like, I want to do something like that, you know.
I think it's a good point to analyze their characters in there. Like in Horizon, one character has so many different types of surfaces. You got hard surface, which is like you got metals, you got plastics, you got like some painted metals, even with that all scratched up. So this is a whole set of surfaces on its own. Plus they got the hides, the fabrics, ropes, everything on one single character. So if you have a character that is not only proportionally in terms of details kind of more grounded and photoreal, plus all these surfaces, it doesn't necessarily have to be a Horizon character. You can do any character, but as long as it's like has the complexity of it and the realism, that's something they would see like, oh, this guy knows how to model like realistic characters, plus he knows how to do all those different types of surfaces. So that could help you out. But anyway, I'm saying this is not a bad portfolio. I think this is a very balanced portfolio. You got 3 or 4 real-time characters like this one, completely done from start to finish. You know, shying away from showing a sketch like your hard surface bust. You know, you're saying, hey, I'm exploring a little bit and I'm not texturing it. Just do a nice clay render and put it in there. This is a great presentation of wireframe, very important to show. And also the GIF is something I really like because it tells me you're not shying away of ripping a piece of the character out and replacing it. You know, you're not getting too attached to the design at the very beginning. So you're open for feedback. It doesn't hurt you to change the legs. It doesn't hurt me to change the head, which is quite nice. I'm not sure if there's much feedback I could give. The only one is if you want to work on a game like Horizon or on a game that Guerrilla does, do something that isn't their realm. Make a character for a studio game that would love to work on. That's why I have mostly monsters and battle armor in my portfolio. You know, this is the stuff I love doing.
I have gotten that feedback. I am working on a Horizon character at the moment, but it's
there we go.
It's biting off quite a sizable chunk with a lot of stuff I wasn't familiar yet, such as Marvelous Designer, and then hey, let me just go for something extremely intricate from the get-go, rather than just hey, let's do a shirt.
Yeah. Okay. That's another thing. You can always combine a new character project with a personal challenge. For instance, I want to learn more as designer, so I do a character that has a shirt, like, or clothing, or a skirt, or even a backpack can be done in Marvelous Designer, right? In terms of personal growth, maybe it's the best spot to be. You have like, here's your comfort zone, and above is like the uncharted territory of things that you've never done before. And if you're right in the middle, I think that's the best place to be. So it's challenging enough to grow, but you still have enough comfort to have fun and an exciting time making this character, instead of I push everything into something I've never done before. Then it could be hard and frustrating and maybe make you abandon the project. Yeah, but if you're doing a Horizon style character, then it'll be a challenge, but go for it. Obviously, you know what you're doing. It's just, okay, switching styles.
Yeah, it's a question of style. Yeah. Style is huge in this case because like all your characters are very stylized.
I'm aware of that, and I am focusing on shifting that, so eventually all of the stylized stuff gets rotated out, and then all of it will be more realistic.
At the same time, I mean, like if you like to do stylized stuff, you know, I don't want to say this is necessarily your case, but I you know, like sometimes you talk to people and you kind of feel as if this is kind of what's going on. Like they don't want to apply elsewhere, you know. They're like, I want to work at that one place, and they're like, this is the only place that I want to work at, you know. And then they're not getting in because they want to apply for AAA studios, very competitive. And the luck of the draw makes it that they never truly get in, but they kind of like solely like stick to that, you know. But there's actually hundreds, thousands of other video game studios out there. And sometimes the key to getting into the studio that you want to get in is to go get some experience somewhere else and then to come back in a few years, you know. Somewhere else could also give you more experience and help you grow faster. Because like, truth be told, like we learn the best when we are in the practical context in a video game studio somewhere, you know, like I've learned the most when I got my first job, and I started, even though I went to school, I was very reputable here in Montreal. Fact still remains that I've learned most of what I've learned when I got within the studios. And so the progress that I have done working for video game studios completely eclipses in terms of time spent, you know, like the amount of gain that I've had in terms of knowledge working in a video game studio far eclipses what I was able to get from myself, the improvements I was able to get from my own skills when I was on my own before that, you know. At the same time, well, doing stylized stuff, well, if that's what you like to do, that's cool too, you know, like there's plenty of stylized projects out there, you know.
Okay, I'll definitely keep that in mind. And then, yeah, maybe it is time to stop staring so blindly on just one company and broaden out. So
yeah, maybe the path is not direct. It could be maybe a detour. Right, I'm sure Guerrilla will still be around in a couple of years.
I think that's a safe bet.
Oh, and you know what else? If you actually do that, if you get hired somewhere else and then you jump over to Guerrilla Games later on, you're probably also going to make more cash in the process. Because one of the best ways to get a pay raise is to go work somewhere and then go work somewhere else afterward, you know?
I'll also keep that in mind. Thank you very much.
You got some leverage there. Thank you, Ed. Keep going.
All right. Thank you very much for your time.
Awesome.
It's good stuff. Nice portfolio, man.
Next, we have Henrique.
Yes, we do. He has not showed up.
Oh, he had confirmed yesterday that he'd be there.
I mean, this is recorded anyway, so he can watch it.
Maybe he's on Twitch right now. He's like, please, don't forget about me. All right, so this is Henrique's portfolio.
So he's pretty much self-taught. He started from scratch and then taught himself doing this, mostly based on YouTube videos, he says, and feedback, because he can't really afford mentorships or specific schools. Oh, he hasn't really applied for jobs, he says. All the job opportunities he's done so far, the client was approaching him, but he would love to work on a game studio and learn and grow and learn how games are being made. Yeah, basically, yeah. I see like he loves his cyberpunk and anime kind of inspired.
He does, doesn't he? Yeah.
Characters, yeah, which is cool, which is nice to have. Like the glowy, crazy hairstyles and the futuristic cyberpunk kind of clothing, which is nice. So if this shows me that this is something he would love to work on, obviously, you know, probably getting hired by CD Projekt Red for the next cyberpunk game or the next cyberpunk DLC, whatever they're doing.
Yeah. At the same time, I feel as if, like, do you think there's too much of it though?
I probably think so. I mean, of course, like I said, your portfolio should dominate what you would love to do, but it shouldn't only be it. Maybe. I mean, he does some vehicle modeling right here in the like third. Did some like a glider or something.
Yeah, it's like the portfolio is very it's almost too focused very narrowly. Like, in fact, just having another type of character in there, not necessarily another type of character as in have a monster in there, but if I was to describe every character in here is a pretty girl with purple hair, they're all exactly the same. So like, who hires someone who has just this very particular narrow skill? Like, I'm thinking maybe some Japanese studios maybe would be interested in this, but I feel as if like having a little bit more variety in there would actually help to broaden the horizon, in terms of maybe having a male character in there, maybe having someone who's a little bit different in terms of morphology.
Exactly. Yeah.
This portfolio is so targeted towards a very specific type of character, type of female character, that probably a lot of people look at this portfolio and they're like, well, we need more variation within our characters, so we're going to pass up.
I think I don't mind if they all will be in the same universe, but if you have like, a tinier character and a more buff character, like I said, different morphology, different characters, maybe bold, and it's like a group of 5, but each one is very distinct from the other. But they could be all in the same universe. That looks like I said, it's all the same.
Yeah, we need a male character in here somewhere, hopefully with not purple hair. I would also say that this kind of goes back to, like, I'm probably going to hammer this with like everyone, but once again, presentation, shaders, lighting, it's not necessarily bad here, but I feel as if there's things that can be improved. Like, I'm kind of looking at like the things she has on her neck here, and kind of feel as if there's no contact. I don't feel the contact between that and the skin, like there's no shadows, no occlusion. It feels kind of disconnected there. It's kind of a piece that's just floating on top there.
I had back in the day when I started, I had made the exact same mistakes, because as character artists, we want to show everything of the model. We spend so much time on each part of the character model, and then we want to show it all, which ends up making it like look kind of flat rendered. And I also had to fight myself to change that. So, and I try to limit myself to a maximum of 4 lights for one render. If I catch myself using more than 4 lights, then I'm doing something wrong. Like, okay, this is probably not working. So I have always trying to have a core shadow, and then something, maybe a rim, the classic rim light that makes it pop from the background, and then 2 helpers to focus some areas you want to draw the viewer's attention to, like the face, for instance. The face a little bit brighter, but also playing with the layering. So if you notice that something in the background has the same brightness as the foreground, as it is here in that case, then it starts to look kind of flat. What also helps is like depth of field can also help to make it pop. When I comp a character render, I make the background a little bit less saturated than the foreground. That helps. The complementary colors, of course, this can help. Or darker. You can play with so many sliders to get that contrast going. So here I would do the same. Even just doing that separations could already help this one to pop a lot more before touching the materials. And the materials are a different thing, where like they also like share pretty much the same specular highlights somehow. The shape of the highlight is very similar, so I can't tell what's fabric, what's leather, what's a linen or something, what's metal, what's a plastic.
Yeah. Everything is kind of the same in terms of shading, right? It's like there's not really in contrast in terms of,
it's very close together.
Yeah. It's like you can't tell the shaders apart, you can't tell the materials apart all that well. One thing I would actually add is like some parts of the character could actually use a little bit more attention to detail. Like we're looking at the boots here, and the boots are just taking the whole screen right now. But like the boots themselves, they're not, like I feel as if a bit more attention to detail here could make them more interesting. Like I feel as if the leather texture that's kind of there, first of all, it kind of looks a little bit of like kind of basic noise. Perhaps a more interesting detail map in there would be good. It's the same kind of leather detail right now, sort of everywhere. There's no variations there. There's no zone where the detail map's a little bit stronger, it's a little bit weaker, it's a little bit bigger, it's a little bit smaller. Like if you take a real leather boot and you kind of look at it, and you kind of look at, like, you really start to really look at patterns that the high frequency details take on there, you'll see that there's like different zones where the grain is a little bit bigger. There's zones where the grain is kind of at a different sort of angle, because like it was all like the skin of a living creature before. Unless the idea here is to do synthetic leather. But even in that case, when you look at like synthetic leather, they still have a tendency to try and build a little bit more sort of variations in there,
Even if it's faux leather, like you said, the synthetic one, it wears out really quickly and then it starts to peel because I think it's just PU, kind of a synthetic, what's it called?
Oh, it's plastic. Yeah, no, definitely.
It's polyurethane.
That's the word I was looking for. Yeah.
Yep.
So if it's made of that, because cyberpunk is more like into synthetic realm, then faux leather wears out differently. It has more cracks. It has more peel. So exactly what you were saying, Laura, adding a story of materials. So the materials tell a story. If she walks around on the streets, I'd like to see a bit more like wear and dirt on the soles, on the bottom of the shoes. When she walks, maybe the lower legs maybe rub together sometimes. So you have a bit of a rubbed off material. You have memory folds in there of the
memory
leather.
Folds. Yeah.
Some cracks and
some like places here, like, so that you can actually tell where it's bending. Yeah. Like have actual memory folds in there, like small little wrinkles.
And the knees rubbed off. So
the knees too. Yeah. Plus, like, we don't have any seams. I don't see any seams in there either.
Yeah, seams, exactly.
Like, there's probably a seam that's kind of missing here. Like how has this been constructed? Like, there's probably seams that are missing in here. So, yeah.
Even in stylization, you want to tell the materials apart. So you can do a lot with detail maps.
Yeah.
For instance, and then even with detail maps, you have a rubbed off area. This is where they're gone. You can control the intensity of them. So yeah, but I think the big feedback here would be adding more variation to the portfolio, I think.
Definitely, yeah.
I mean, he knows how to model. Obviously,
absolutely,
it's pretty good stuff.
Yeah, like the modeling is nice. Like I think it just goes back to what we were saying, like materials, shading, rendering.
Materials, shading, and variation. And like you said, rendering and lighting. Yeah, this is also the point when I get to a project, one of my projects. This is where I doubt the work the most that I do on this character. I put it in the first scene. I add some lights. I'm like, what? This is it? Really? This is what I spent like 3 months on? Just no, and then I go back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah.
Until it's right. Sometimes I spend more time rendering than the actual modeling process.
But I mean, that's good though, right? Because like that like shows off your work so well.
So it's afterwards. So important. Yeah.
It's so important. One thing too here is that I feel as if the like these renders are huge and the character doesn't quite hold up in terms of resolution to the resolution of the rendering. Like the renderings are so big that you really start to see the low resness.
Like low resness, yeah.
Yeah. The renders are too big for this particular attention to detail,
Mm-hmm.
So actually, this is weird to say, but smaller renders would actually benefit this particular portfolio. But if you are going to render something this big, then you need to make sure that you are detailing, and you need to make sure that your textures actually hold up too. Because like I feel as if the texture is starting to look a little bit blurry, I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Perhaps there's an over reliance too on the like a bit of a cavity pass to add, which is good, but feels like there's a cavity pass that's been added on top of like everything.
Something
here.
Right? Yeah, the curvature.
Yeah, the curvature
overlaid or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
Detail maps already would do a lot.
Yeah.
Detail textures. Yeah.
But yeah, like the modeling wise, it's really good.
Yeah, the modeling is pretty good. It would be nice to know. I mean, it's sad that he's not here. I would love to hear what his goals are. I mean, obviously working on maybe on some of these games that I can see here, but maybe his ambitions are maybe a bit different. Maybe he wants to just do characters for the Epic Store or something. Who knows, right? But he's showing wireframes, which is great, and they're pretty clean. Those are pretty good wireframes.
So super clean, yeah.
And he has poses. I think that means when he's working with Unreal. So it looks like he's doing retargeting animation, targeting it to the rigs. He has his cloth sim, so he knows how to integrate stuff. So I think he has a lot of points that are important for working in a game studio. Now he just needs to show off I could do more than these type of characters.
Like some pieces here, I think I would remove them. Like I would actually remove this here. I think I would remove the bike. It kind of sucks, right? But like maybe I would integrate the bike with a character piece.
It's a character, yeah. Give the sword to a character and the bike to a character. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm not a vehicle modeler, but I'm modeling a bike right now. So, but it will be only seen with the character in the same scene.
Here too, though, like everything's very similar in terms of shading. Like the materials are all very similar here. Everything kind of have more or less the same kind of level of gloss, you know.
It all has the Unwired project logo on it, so it's probably all for the same project.
Yeah, there is a consistency definitely in terms of style.
But yeah, if he reaches out to you after this and he has more questions, I can also answer them in an email or something, because he's not here. That's fine.
Henrique, that's a pretty good offer right there. I wouldn't pass up on that.
But I like his way he presents stuff, like the animation, the workflow, the breakdown. That's pretty nice.
The breakdowns are really cool.
Yeah, the breakdowns.
Love the breakdowns. Yeah. Henrique, thank you. I know you weren't there, but still, thank you for sending your portfolio in.
I was just about to ask if you can give me a 2-minute break to go hit the restroom real quick.
No.
Okay.
Of course. Please do.
Welcome to Intermission.
I didn't actually flush because I'm afraid that if I flush, that it's going to be picked up on stream. Too much information. Next we have Caiden. Am I pronouncing that properly, Caiden?
It's Caiden, actually.
Caiden. Nice gaming room.
Whoa, that's insane. What's going on there?
Cool.
Whoa. That's crazy. What are you collecting exactly?
I don't know, weeb shit.
Okay.
That's cool. That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would ask you, why is it that you are applying for portfolio in video games? But I think I know the reason looking at your background. Yeah.
Yeah, possibly.
So have you applied at places? What are you looking for exactly in terms of a role? And what is your portfolio targeted to help you achieve as a goal?
I applied to lots of places. I graduated actually 2014 and have been kind of on a job hunt since then. So I graduated at the point right when it switched over to PBR materials. Never showed us anything PBR related. So I started teaching myself straight out of college into like trying to get a job. Okay. So just pain point, and then, hit with like my financial situation. So just a lot of juggling. I'm pleased to announce that I do have a asset integration job as an outsourcer for Destiny 2.
Wow,
so
nice.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited about that. But I wanted to make sure I was, keeping on track and getting, so essentially, like, if you look at my portfolio now, it's showing a person like learning like from then to now, and a lot of this probably needs to be cut. Where the quality bar probably needs to be the latest piece needs to be the whole portfolio.
So how much time do you usually spend on like all this stuff like per day, let's say?
Yeah, so currently I'm working 2 full-time jobs, so I work about 80 hours a week. Yeah. Okay. So the good news is that I'm also working at a fish hatchery, so I have some downtime to actually work on my art while I'm doing things. So but yeah, just a struggle to like find time to like keep grinding on my stuff to like and then reaching like plateaus and frustration. So I guess I want to know, like, you're both very busy people with a lot of agency over like your schedules and your time, and I wonder how you guys balance that.
Oh, you mean like work-wise?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I have a 9-to-5 job, regular job right now, but I always try to find some time to do personal work where I can still push myself, but it's not always the case. So yeah, sometimes there's the frustration of not having the time to do it, and sometimes there's the frustration of actually now I'm doing it and having fun, but at the same time, I need to leave the house, I need to go out with friends, do something, or I need like do the sports, anything that balances it out somehow.
Right.
It can be rough, right? Because mentally you're always like doubting, is this right now what I'm doing or not? Or yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
Then yeah, there's stagnation. Yeah, there is a plateau, but it's fine. I think it's normal. I'm not sure if you heard about George Leonard, his book, like the ways to mastery. He talks about plateaus, that the learning curve is full of plateaus, and his message is basically learn how to love the plateaus, because if you feel stagnating, that's actually the point where you have to keep going, because the next spike will definitely come. Some plateaus are longer, some are shorter, but I think the important part is to recognize that there is some kind of learning happening, even if you don't have, I think, personal project progress right now. Even if you look at other people's stuff and you see what you like, and you know why you like it, what's good about this design, what is good about this model, or you see some issues that would need to improve, there's also some learning happening, because you have that eye. You train yourself to look at stuff, even if you're not actively making models, but you develop that eye for it, which is nice. You say you work at a fish hatchery, right? Yeah, which is, I think that's kind of cool, right? Because I think fish can inspire you for your next character ideas.
Yeah, definitely.
You can do an angler, like an angler dude or something, or an angler fish monster.
I am kind of working on a fish monster at the moment.
There we go. Exactly. That's awesome. Everything outside on the outside world can inspire you to do things. So yeah, fill up that reservoir in your mind of inspiration that you can feed from when you do your stuff. So yeah.
Right. So initially, I was probably building my portfolio much more to apply to like indie studios, because I didn't feel that I had like the chops to go for like AAA or anything like that, and I wanted to work on something more of a passion project anyway. And I'm kind of a person who wears a lot of hats. But now I think I might be trying to switch more to eventually gear myself more towards working for Bungie, because that's who the contacts are. So
that's another thing, networking. So important. I like this character.
This character is really
cool.
nice. Yeah.
It's awesome, yeah.
No, this character is really, really cool. I just want to say that too. Like we were talking here about rendering, lighting, shading, these sorts of things. Like I've kind of been mentioning that a few times. You really are nailing those.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Like those are great. Like we can look at your cloth here. It feels nice and rough. There's a very nice textile that is kind of applied on there. I love the hair, by the way. The hair on the creature is like almost...
It's very fluffy.
Yeah. It's not a shame that he's wearing the kind of helmet that he's wearing from a design perspective, but I would definitely show off that work more specifically. I would probably put a render of him where he is not wearing that, and you can actually fully focus on really showing the beauty that you have done here for the hair. I'm not sure what you've done there in terms of approach. What was the approach, in fact? Was it hair cards, strands? Like, what's the approach?
Basically, I was working with the particle system in Blender, and then 3.3 hit, and I was like, ooh, fun. So,
They just had that improved.
Yeah.
In 3.3.
Yep. Started learning some of that stuff, and messy, good from far from good. Mostly this is me teaching myself for sort of workflows for like Alembic stuff, like importing that into Unreal 5.
Unreal 5. That's great, man.
Yeah, it's really cool. No, I really love this here.
I love how the smaller details support the big shapes. That's a huge plus on this one.
Yeah, I love the shaders too. Like I said, like especially with the turntable, you can really feel the metallic parts here. Like you got a really nice kind of rendering that's kind of going on there. Like this piece, is way stronger than anything else you have within your portfolio. Like this piece is way beyond. And this is, I think, another case of the other thing you have within your portfolio is actually holding you back. But clearly you are showing a level of skill here that I believe is AAA worthy, and you practically need to wipe out everything else within your portfolio. Just get rid of all of it. Perhaps, I think this one here is still interesting. I think there's probably something there too to be done, perhaps presentation-wise. I do want to say, by the way, that I do really love the materials that you have here, although attention to detail-wise, it's not as strong. I think this is one of those pieces, this isn't actually something that a lot of people talk about, and I find that it's a bit of a lost opportunity, okay? But I think it's something that more people should do, which is to take an older piece that they have done that still has a lot of value and just upgrade it, Like, we have tendency to be like, okay, what's the next character I'm going to work on? And we kind of always move to like the next one. But when we're trying to build a portfolio and we're trying to get a job somewhere, sometimes it's actually more effective, like in terms of time. We can actually create a better portfolio piece by taking an older piece and just modifying to be better than to actually create something new. Like this particular character here, I would take a look at it. I would take a look at the details, like especially here around the sleeves. I feel as if there's things that can be improved here.
You know what you could do with them, with this guy? Have you seen the what's it called? The Warcraft Archlight Rumble trailer? I feel like the way the shapes are on, especially on those sleeves, that you could reshade it and render it as like a miniature, because the shapes here are kind of as if it's like a little plastic miniature. Even here on the gauntlet, it feels like this is something you would make out of little pieces of metal and put on a miniature figure. So I think this is maybe something you can do just as an idea to render it as an actual miniature, maybe on a little pedestal. And with the depth of field, right, where the depth of field is pretty strong, it kicks in really fast, so it looks like it's like a miniature photograph. Maybe you could do it something with this, or a little pose, because that could work probably. Because as a model, it's not bad at all. Yeah,
appreciate it. I do kind of take that sort of like handmade approach, mostly because that's sort of my skill set, is to sculpt kind of everything.
Yeah, there we go.
Hand.
Exactly.
So
nice.
Yeah,
could be an idea.
Yeah, I would also think about the hair in this particular context, because like you've done some really wonderful hair on the other character that we've kind of looked at, and like there's something that I really like about the hair that's on the side, the kind of shaved hair. I love it. Like there's something interesting here. Like we don't really see it that well, but when I look at the shape, I look at the details, I look at how it blends with the skin there's something really interesting that's kind of going on here. The polygonal hair that is on top of it is not as interesting. Like if you were to take this piece, just change the hair for like a really high quality hair, like keep the style, keep the design, keep the colors, but just like make it look as good as the hair that you've done for your other character there. This is going to be really, really, really cool. And it's really going to upgrade the piece. And you get a really nice thumbnail as well, because we were actually speaking about that before in the context of portfolio. And like the actual thumbnails that you have on your main page matter as much as the actual pieces themselves.
Right.
Also, just a random thought, but I think this is overexposed, by the way. I would reduce the exposure on the picture.
Yeah. Just as a final question for you guys, like how do you guys like what are your resources? Like how do you stay relevant, like when it's a tech industry, things are always changing?
Oh, it's rough, because there's new tools, new techniques, new stuff coming pretty much every month. Now the big trend is the AI stuff, so we play around with it when we hang out online with friends sometimes. But yeah, it's keeping pace is really important, and sometimes it's not always easy. So like learning Blender, learning Unreal, at the same time abandoning old workflows probably. I try to combine like personal projects with like personal challenges. So like for Blender, for instance, I wanted to do like 3 busts, and like, okay, let's try it in Blender. It's not full characters, so it doesn't hurt if one of them doesn't work out. So I just, in order to learn Blender, I do either a small asset in it, or a simpler character, a simpler shape, not a full one. If you want to learn Marvelous Designer, make a character that has maybe a jacket, and you do the jacket in Marvelous Designer, and everything else, where you feel comfortable in. It's like this thin line between your comfort zone and that uncharted territory. If you manage to be right in between, then it's both exciting and challenging at the same time. I think that's a good
Stay uncomfortable. I like it.
Yes. And surround yourself with people who are light years ahead of you. I think that's the best opportunity of growth, if you're surrounded with really, really good people that give you the best push.
Sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for your time, guys.
Cool.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, likewise. Appreciate it, man. Keep going.
And if you want to learn Marvelous Designer, go check out Outgang's classes on Marvelous Designer.
Already do.
Y'all were thinking I wasn't going to plug a publicity in there somewhere? Well, I just did.
Plug.
All right. So next we have Nadine. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Oh, doing fine, thanks.
Pretty good. Yeah, thank you.
All right, Nadine. Tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
So I've been trying to break into the games industry for about a year now. Really want to get into a character position. I worked on 2 pieces specifically for Obsidian, and that didn't work out. So I'm trying to shift over to more stylized stuff to try and see if I can get something at Blizzard or Riot or like indie studios or startups. Just like get my foot in somewhere.
Which is why you've done this particular character, I assume?
Yes.
Okay. Can I just say before we do say anything more, these are real sculptures, right?
Yeah, it's actual clay sculpture.
That's insane.
That's pretty good.
It's so crazy good.
Thank you.
Like, I just want to say, like, this is... highly impressive.
Yeah. So that foundation is definitely there.
Yeah, like the whole artistic foundation is definitely very strong. No, these are crazy. I'm always in awe. Like as someone who doesn't do actual traditional arts or sculpting, I'm always in awe when I see these kind of things within portfolios. You know, like we kind of talk about like, oh, like you should get rid of everything that's kind of not directly related to the job that you have. I don't think that applies to real life sculptures. I think they always have value in the portfolio because it's just something that not a lot of people can do. It's very hard to do, at least I do imagine. It impresses quite a lot. It shows a lot of value. It shows a lot of your own skills, your own personal interests, you know. If you are able to do something really wonderful in terms of sculpture, traditionally, there's no doubt, as far as I'm concerned, that you are able to do something as good, if not even better than that when it comes to like 3D, you know. Anyway, I just wanted to give you a few praises on that because I think that your work is absolutely, absolutely wonderful.
Thank you.
That's beautiful. Yeah, the cat right there.
All right. That being said, now let's take a look at your 3D stuff.
So your goal is to work at either like in a game that has more stylized, like League of Legends, or what's the shooter that like Valorant?
Yeah. I'm working on some more stylized characters. Like I'm currently working on some League fan art because like their internships just opened, so I'm gonna try and see if I can get in that way.
Yeah, it's like a little Kratos inspired kind of character right there.
Yeah.
Nice. Proportions are great. I mean, your traditional background definitely shines through. I think there's not much to improve there. It's really cool. Like the big horn. Body language is nice.
Perhaps the only feedback I would say is I'm not quite sure about the shoulders. I feel very round and kind of bulky. I mean, I know that the character is supposed to be bulky, but I would look at this particular zone. Like I would look in detail at the anatomy of this particular zone.
Yeah, I would either reduce maybe the volume of the deltoids or add more trapezius.
Yeah,
so you get rid of that angle, that cut right there, maybe.
All right.
Yeah.
The thing too about deltoids is that the top is often very flat. You know, you can kind of tell that like it's not fully round as a muscle. You know, like there's like the top of it is a bit flatter usually. Carefully looking at the shape of it, like here, like the arm isn't quite raised, but you can kind of tell here that, right, like it gets a bit flatter here towards the top here. This one's maybe interesting too. You can see that like this particular zone here, you can see that it's also kind of flat. Another thing about the deltoid that I see as a mistake often, okay, is that there's a bit of a dip here. There's a bit of concavity here as we transition from the deltoid over to the trapezius. But at no point does it dip in. Like it doesn't go like down like this, if that makes any sense, what I'm saying.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, it just flattens out and then.
Yeah. Like this goes way too deep in here, you know? So yeah, there's like a whole lot of stuff here about the shoulder, I think specifically that probably needs to be looked at. All right. Other than that, we have this particular character. This is very, it's like reminds me of those Telltale games.
Oh yeah. So what I like about this one is the story that it tells. You say he's a mechanic and he has actually what like a mechanic is actually all the parts of it. And he has this jumpsuit that is worn out. It has some oil stains. It's like has some nice wear on it. You know, the boots maybe a little bit too clean. They're good boots for like a mechanic, but maybe they're a little bit too clean, right? You want them to maybe make them a little bit more gross. This is where you can play with specular, right? Most of the fabric that comes on top of the boots is like this kind of matte fabric, this rough one. Maybe the boots, you can have some oil spills, some splashes, some really nasty stuff he's did maybe. Depending on what he does as a mechanic. You know, if he repairs like diesel machines, then yeah, he's pretty messed up. I like the scarf. The scarf is a nice addition to this one, especially the orange that pops out. So you have it attracts the viewer to the head, to the upper part of it, the torso. That's nice. He has the welding goggles. Exactly, he has the wrench. The backpack with the bottle in there. That's quite nice, right? You need to take a break. Maybe he has some energy drink or chicken soup in it. I don't know.
Or maybe he just needs to pee.
Oh yeah, probably. So he has lots of the bags, the pouches. So that's quite a nice character. You know, it has quite a story, which is nice.
It's pretty involved Marvel's designer pattern there. It's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really wanted to like go in depth as I could, trying to learn it.
You did the boots in it. That's cool. Nice.
One thing I could give you about feedback, Ben was actually speaking about the boots and it got me to think about something here. It would be nice here, like if you look at the silhouette of the boot versus the leg, okay? If you look at just the silhouette here on both sides, the width of the boots is very similar to the width of the pants. So if we were to look at this character as a black and white kind of thing where the whole character is black and you put the background white, you would probably have a bit of a hard time to tell where the boot ends and where the pants begin. It would be nice to have more variation, more sort of play in terms of width of things. But especially for the boots here, like have the boots be narrower around the ankles and have the pants be a little bit wider there so that it creates a nice angle break. You know, like as you go up from like the boot and then you reach where the start of the pants are and then it flares out, you know, and then it keeps on going up from there, you know, like you're going to get more of a silhouette break there. You're going to get more of a interplay of size of shapes, these sorts of things. And I think it would make the zone here read a little bit better. Like you could kind of apply this sort of everywhere too. Like you could take a look at sort of the arms too. Like there's a bit more here. Like you can tell that the sleeve here, the kind of blue sleeve is a bit thicker than the kind of more gray sort of undershirt that he has there, but you could even make that even more than that. Like you could even like sort of emphasize that even more. Sometimes even like if you look here where the gray kind of undershirt kind of stops here and we transition over to the arms there, you don't necessarily need to make the whole sleeve wider, okay? As much as what kind of often works is that you just take the edge of them, like just the last kind of centimeter or so, and you flare that out, you know, kind of create a bit of a flaring out like that. That helps to just once again, just create a little bit more of those silhouette breaks, if that makes sense.
That does, thank you.
Congratulations on this really crazy Mars designer pattern. This is really, really good. As someone whose Mars designer is very dear to my heart, this is very heartwarming to see. So good job on that.
That's another thing. Mars designer, if you're really good at it, it's also an argument for hiring sometimes.
Yeah.
Especially when they do work on a game that has a lot of cloth. Having someone who's really good with this can be like a valuable asset to the team.
Is Mars designer a strong point or weak point over at Blizzard? Is it something that people are looking to hire?
A colleague of mine, she originally did fashion design for many years. So that's what she originally learned. And then she used Mars designer. And I think that was one of the reasons why she was brought into the team to not only do that, but also like teach everyone else. Like I said, that's why I was saying it can be a huge plus when you apply for a job where a game has a lot of cloth and stuff. Like Diablo 4 or even Horizon or even Destiny 2 has a lot of cloth going on. That's also a nice piece right there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very intricate armor work there. Jotun, do you have any thoughts? Because I know that you're a very fan of these things.
Yes, I have some, yeah. Mostly like sculpting-wise, material read. If you look at the pauldron here, Laura, if you stop scrolling, you have the individual plates, and they are, for a lack of a better word, a little blobby in their material read, which metal almost never is. So it reads sort of clay-ish. And then beyond that, your sort of internal lines in your armor that aren't all sort of even, especially on the pauldrons.
I mean these here, right?
Yeah. Sharpen your edges a little bit. You're also on your edging at the front. Yeah, I think a lot of it is really down to it kind of reading as either leather or clay in the sculpt and not as metal.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, it feels as if the corners here, the borders are a little too round. Yeah,
it's got a metallic texture on it, but if you remove that, it wouldn't read as metal.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Maybe one thing. This is super minor. Okay, this is like nitpicking, but it looks like I can see some specularity. It seems to be pooling within the crevice here. I don't know if that makes any sense, but you know, like you kind of get that. Like if those armored pieces have been sculpted on top of something else, but out of the same model, you know, like out of the same subtool, then sometimes like you'll get like a little bit of a round kind of concavity there going from piece to piece, if that makes any sense. And sometimes that has a tendency to pick up a little bit of specularity in there. I don't know whether I'm right or wrong, or as far as how you've approached this. But
do you recall if those were separate subtools or not?
Yeah, that was like a one subtool. Yeah.
Yeah, you can kind of tell. It's weird, right? But you can kind of tell that these are out of the same subtool, which is fine. Like, you can keep them as the same subtool, but it would be perhaps interesting to have them as different meshes in there, perhaps.
Yeah, and while we're being nitpicky, your breastplate is a little too long.
Okay.
It sits on the hip bone, which...
Oh, so he wouldn't be able to bend.
Mm-hmm.
Since this is very clearly sort of a very highly realistic armor, that's the only reason I'd go with that, because it's a totally valid choice for fantasy art.
Mm-hmm.
But since it's realistic, a breastplate stops at the waist, because otherwise you can't bend. And I say this from painful experience, having worn a breastplate that is a little too long, you crack yourself in the chin when you sit down.
Oh, yeah, because it moves up and yeah.
Yep.
Ouch. Okay. That is good to know, right? Yeah.
I was just really struggling with proportions on this, like getting it to look right. That was like
That
one of the
is okay.
struggles of this.
You do get happy last points for having the gorget on the inside of the breastplate.
That's why it's always cool to have these people on board who are like special, like almost experts in certain fields. If I would model something like this, I would probably make the same mistakes because I've never done it. I would need to do my research. I would need to talk to people who are probably into LARP or even blacksmiths who do this for fun and for a living in order to make this believable. Building it is one thing, but knowing it is the other.
It's like the thing you said with you had someone on the team who's been a seamstress for a long time. I've worked with blacksmiths and leathersmiths and that sort of stuff for the last 7 years. So that's the only reason I know.
Okay, then I know who to ask when I do something like this in the future.
Feel free.
I'll keep in touch. I will pick your brain. And that's why I personally think why teamwork is awesome. Once you're in a studio and everybody has a different story and a different background, just absorb it, do stuff together. It's so nice and so important. One last thought, if you go is to do like work at Riot or Blizzard or something stylized, keep doing it. I think the first entry here is a good start. You have the traditional background, which is awesome. So you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
My last thought, because I just want to throw it out there, even though we are way over time. The picture that you put on the top of each of these portfolio entries is the most important one, which for me is not this one here. It would be one of these. Because like there is a chance that someone will actually click on this particular portfolio piece and won't scroll down further down than the actual first piece that they're going to come across. So you want that first picture that's on top to do the best possible impression, which wouldn't be to start with a grayscale model like this, but to start with one of the rendered pictures that you have.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nadine. And I believe we are up to our last participant here, Savelii. You are joining us from Ukraine, I believe, right? Are you there right now?
Yep. Yeah, sure.
Jesus. I can't imagine how bad, like, I don't have any words, but I do want to sincerely just apologize and give you my own support.
Thank you. I can describe all the situation only in one sentence. So the missile struck my house several days ago.
Shit.
So for now, I'm in safe. I'm in the western part. I'm in Lviv. It's quiet and safe. So that's it. I'm making character art.
I'm sorry to hear that, man. It's terrible what's going on.
That's fine. First of all, I want to thank you all for this really cool opportunity to get portfolio feedback.
So absolutely. It's the least we can do.
All right. Tell us a little bit about yourself and the kind of job that you are looking to get.
So first of all, for now, I'm working as a 3D artist in a tiny build company, really good company. I already described that the project where we're working now is really interested me. So that's why I'm here and working. I tried to send my portfolio to other companies where also we have really cool projects, but never get accepted. So the first time I was declined right before the test task, and after the second attempt I got the test task. You can see it's my the first work in my portfolio, and I had a lot of problems with textures and the secondary shapes. That's after that I tried to push myself to get the primary secondary shapes, to get the silhouette, the forms, maybe to get the gesture when I pose a character, so like that. And my goal is like everybody here, I want to get the job in a AAA studio. Why not?
That's a really cool one. I really like this guy. Super strong shapes.
Yeah, it's like shapes wise. Like, and by the way, you said a lot of key words there that I think shows that you take character art very seriously. Like you said words like gesture, you've been speaking about silhouette, sorts of things. It shows that you understand what makes a good character. If you do understand the importance of shapes, if you do understand the importance of gesture, you are already much beyond a lot of other people there that don't necessarily know that, because like you kind of need to have traditional art background to kind of appreciate what gesture is, or it's not something that most people necessarily are very aware of in terms of importance when it comes to creating art there. So clearly you take this very seriously. And yeah, this piece is it's crazy good. Like I actually really love this piece here. Another thing, okay, like this is gonna sound weird perhaps for some people, but I love that there are so many diagonals in here. Like one thing that we often see within character art or character pieces is a lot of straight lines, a lot of lines that are at 90 degrees, a lot of lines that are either parallel to the page or that are perpendicular to like the page, or characters that just have a very stiff pose, And like it's actually refreshing to see a character where there's a lot of things that are kind of at a diagonal, because it adds a lot of dynamism to like a piece, I think that's really, really cool.
And that this shape still, it's being echoed throughout the design, which is quite nice. You have it on the chest, that it goes like back up, back down.
Yeah.
On the back, the entire skull on the back has that same curve going backwards. The thigh plates have that curve going in. So that's great shape language. Even the curves of the hair or the fur on the back has that. So yeah, man, you know what you're doing on this one.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I think for me to think that's just maybe holding this back a little bit, and I do mean a little bit, but once again, maybe it is related to rendering shaders, these sorts of things. I feel as if your skin shader could be more convincing as a skin shader. There's some contrast issue going on with the picture here near the bottom. I don't know if it's just me or if it's my screen, but it feels like the levels have been crushed here a little bit too much. There's just something about it here that just starts to look a little bit too black. Like, yeah, like just the best way I can say is just like the levels have been compressed a little bit too much. So shader wise, like I feel as if you were to take this piece and just upgrade the shaders, what we've been talking about here is a presentation / lighting issue. Maybe add a little bit of subsurface within those kind of like the bony parts of this. I think like this would be super, super strong. And perhaps the idea here was to do something that's very stylized. So maybe what I'm saying here isn't quite going in the proper direction there. It feels like you are kind of somewhere between realistic and stylized with this, more on the stylized side. But I feel as if it's so strong that if you were to take this within the realistic realm, this would be super crazy strong.
Yeah.
And, change the hair here that we have for like actual hair, as opposed to just polygonal meshes there will also have a huge impact, I think.
I think the only thing I would do is probably work out the anatomy a little bit of where the biceps meets the lower arm. Where I see this a lot where we have this V-shape muscles surrounding the biceps. Actually, the biceps has two heads, right? And you have the lower arm muscles coming in more like, I'm not sure you can see that here on this section. So it looks like it wraps behind it right now, whereas it attaches to the humerus. So this is probably something I would smooth out a little bit here, especially on this side. Yeah, you see that dip between the biceps and the lower arm muscles. There's actually another one sitting below it. So that's why I've already looked at that. But it's just nitpicking. Other than that, only on the texturing maybe, because he has so many bone parts, so many cool bone parts. What I would do is maybe add a bit more variation on the values of each bone. So right now they seem to have the same value. So if you add like a large scale noise that just drives the value of the color a little bit, you get some bone parts being a bit brighter, some of them being a bit darker. So you add more of that variation. Also slightly in saturation. So some parts a bit more yellow, some bones a bit more like pale. That adds maybe another kick to it. That's the only thing I would say. The rest is really cool, man. Yeah, it's a nice character.
Thanks. Like the story of this character is, sorry if I interrupt you. So I tried to texture it really cool. Then I mean the bones. And then I started to delete layer by layer and to see how it works if another layer adds some details. I deleted all the layers, only got the white one, And I said, oh yeah, that's fine. And then I saw like, okay, I need to redone everything. But at that stage, so this work was posted like last year, 1 year ago, where my textures were not like on the best level I can.
Mm-hmm.
So in this work, I tried to like push the best I can, and then like to work more on textures. So the textures is my not the best part. Like sculpting is okay, yeah, anatomy I see it, but the textures is the hardest, difficult part.
But this one it's pretty consistent. I think that's a good thing. The texturing wise, it's very consistent, which is nice. It's like as if you set up the rules for this particular style and you nail it. Because I was just nitpicking with the with the values. That's one little thing I would do, and then boom, job done. So that's really cool stuff.
Yeah, here I tried the first time I tried the hair card. It was a hell, guys. I don't know how you're working with it.
Yeah, it can be painful.
Yeah, I see it.
There's not many character artists who are going to say that they like to do hair. This is really strong.
Yeah. You got the fur, which is nice. You got the hair. So fur, hair, plus the chainmail, which is a different specular highlight. You got the leathers. They look pretty worn out, which is nice. And on the metals, I would probably push back a little the convexities, because they seem very bright, like that pattern of what's supposed to be. So I would dial that back maybe a little bit, but push the actual metal look more, like the shininess of it. Maybe you need to increase or decrease your roughness and increase your albedo a little bit to get that back.
It's not convincing as metal right now.
Not that much yet. Yeah.
It's really shader wise. Like it feels like it's not a metallic shader that you have on there.
Where's that? Is that rendered in Unreal or Marmoset? Marmoset. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't take much to make it look like metal. It's just a few dials. It's not bad. What I love is the belt setup, because you get so many different shapes, so many different types of pieces, different colors, and it still reads, which is really nice. That's an art on its own, having a lot of detail, a lot of shapes in something, and make it still read. So that turned out quite nice.
Yeah.
Maybe dial back the specular from the red fabric and make it more look like a fabric. Make it more matte. Other than that, yeah. Same thing with the bones of the other character. If you have many different leather pieces, you can do the same with the values, where some belts are a little brighter than the others. Maybe they come from two different animals. Who knows?
Yeah. In fact, like what you're saying, Ben, like I was at like IKEA like a few days ago, and on a few products, they had to like actually write somewhere, like either on the product or on the thing that's where the price is, saying, by the way, these are natural materials, so there will be color variations in there, because they actually want people to know that, hey, because this is a natural thing, you will naturally see things a little bit different in terms of color there. I think it was like for like wood or like something like that. But no, so like these characters are actually really, really good. Perhaps this one here is the one that I would actually get rid of. Once again, it's holding back everything else, because like people will actually look at your portfolio and will see these really crazy good characters which you have here on the left, but the one on the right, it's not nearly to the same level there, and it will diminish the value of the portfolio. There is actually, for those who actually wonder about the psychology of this, because there is actually a background in psychology to what I'm actually talking about, and without getting into too much of the details there, just in terms of time, but you can look up Daniel Kahneman when he talks about the broken dishes experiment. If you just Google that, you'll come across a lot of very interesting information. But if I was to just give the gist of it here really quickly, it's that as human beings, we're actually very bad at judging the absolute value of things, and we actually judge things based on the average that we perceive. And the basic experiment was that they essentially asked people to rate how much money would they spend for 3 dishes that they were presented. And there were 3 brand new dishes there. And let's say participants said, maybe, okay, I'll pay $35 for those. And then they did the exact same thing. They took the same 3 dishes, but they added 2 broken ones so that you would actually be buying more stuff. And people said like, oh no, actually I'll pay only $25 for that. Even though technically there's more stuff, the average value of the set had actually gone down because 2 of those were actually broken there. So like as human beings, we're actually really bad at judging the absolute value of things. If you look at a set of things, and we're actually like, we go about judging the value of things based upon the average value that we can perceive through all of the members of a set. Anyway, so that's the whole psychology behind getting rid of portfolio pieces that are of a lower quality than.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice.
Yep.
But I think the order of the rest is pretty good. I think just like deactivating the last one, removing that, but the order of the rest is pretty solid.
Yeah, we were talking about thumbnails. I wonder if this is the right thumbnail for this one. Yeah, I'm just wondering what I would do with that, because I feel as if everything else is kind of colored, but this one is kind of grayscale. Maybe that's just the only thing that's kind of missing out of it. Maybe it's just a splash of color on the thumbnail, perhaps, in some way, shape, or form. We haven't looked at this piece yet, so maybe we can spend a few minutes on this.
Yeah, sure. Here, I was really addicted to topology. So
okay,
here is only 14K trees, so some kind of for a mobile game.
So you set yourself a budget, and
yeah.
Okay,
I really like to save all polygons. Like that's the thing I'm really addicted about.
That's really good to have. Yeah, if okay, I'm on a budget because the game is maybe mobile or it's for a weaker platform, then you need to know how to optimize. But that's good practice. Practice too. What's cool is that the skirt of flaps, I don't know quite what the word is for these, and the front around the hips, that they kind of almost match the topology beneath it. So if they're separate, that's exactly what a rigger or a tech artist needs in order for it to move consistently with the rest, or to sim it. When they have to sim a sash or a piece of a skirt, their resolution is usually lower because they tend to add a bone for each vertex for the collision detection. And the less they have to add, the less expensive it's going to be in real time. So having that density lower than the rest is a plus. And you actually killing 2 birds with 1 stone here. You still manage to maintain the silhouette breaks of the panels, though. So that's really good stuff. That's good work, man. Yeah. It's nicely optimized. It will work for a sim. It will work for a rig, and at the same time, you kept the shapes. Yeah, good job. That's awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah. You could add 1 more loop maybe to the knees to preserve the volume of the knee, right? Or that surrounding loop, because when we like bend arms and stuff, we have the bone here, the like electron, and also on the knees, the patella, the knee pad. The disc. So if it bends, we do traditional skinning. We always have the volume loss because we stretch the polygons. So you want to add a little bit of that on the knee to give the rigger the opportunity to preserve a bit of that volume. But it depends on the game. If it's an isometric game where you see top down, you never see the legs, don't worry about it, right? So
I just have one question. So like every time I'm applying for a job, I mean, I have the same situation as Jessica said. I always get the role of a 3D artist, not a 3D character artist. So even now I'm working in a really cool project, but for some time I need to work as a 3D artist to create the sets, props, etc. But I want to work with characters. I don't know what's missing.
I'm surprised.
Me too.
That you would get, like, I wouldn't take you for a generalist looking at your portfolio. Like, your portfolio screams character art, It could be maybe, I don't know, like, I'm kind of thinking, but, it might be the case that, like, are you talking about roles that are around you, like, in terms of physical location, like the studios that are sort of around you, or you mean, like, worldwide?
I mean, in Ukraine, we don't have a lot of game studios, so I can't apply, for example, to USA or Canada. I'm going to remove after the war ends. I already have all documents to relocate to Canada. Maybe I have more opportunity there. But here for now in Ukraine, so not a lot of companies, a lot of outsourced companies, so not the product. But I personally, I prefer to work with product companies. I want to create something and just to give like a part of me in some project. I don't want to be a part of another team. So that's kind of a psychological thing.
Yeah, because it could really be just a question of the opportunities that are in Ukraine right now just don't lend themselves that well to specialists in character art. Like smaller studios, more like indie studios, typically like people who will be more generalists because they can do more things on the project. It could just be that, and it probably likely is just that. Like you're not necessarily in a situation where you can easily apply for jobs outside of Ukraine right now, but theoretically, if you could, there would probably be more towards specialist as far as character art is concerned. So I think it's more a question of location, timing, these sorts of things.
It's a Blizzard here. It's like most of the people who are character artists, they are listed as 3D artists too. So it's actually, some call it 3D artist, but you are part of the character team. So it doesn't necessarily have to mean that you do everything. So it can be confusing a little bit. Yeah, I'm wondering, because if I'm like characters, you're a character artist, right? And if you do props, you're maybe an asset artist. I think Guerrilla does it very well. Everything that's not character is an asset artist for the robot team, and everything that's environment related is environment artists. So they're quite specific for that, which is nice. But if it's a smaller team, you might end up doing many different things because they probably don't have the financial power to hire like specialists for everything. So they need to keep the team small, but they need to make a lot of content. So they end up doing different things. And the larger the team gets, the more specialized it can be. But at the same time, there's less like a chance maybe for you to contribute your ideas into it. I mean, it does work. If it's a huge team, you're part of almost like an assembly line probably. But it's so different from team to team. I can only speak from my personal experience. So are you currently applying for jobs outside your country?
Right now, not.
Okay.
It depends on the situation right now. I don't know where I'm going to be in a month. So I can't plan right now, to be honest.
Yeah. That is bad.
I'm going to wish you the best of lucks. Sincerely.
Yeah,
thanks. Everything will be good, I'm sure.
Stay strong, man. I wish you the best. Yeah, keep going.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone who has shown their portfolio today. Thank you so much. I think this was a great stream.
Let's say thank you to Ben and Laura, everybody together. Thank you. Thank you guys for this opportunity.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And thank you to everyone who has watched this, whether you're watching this live on Twitch or whether you will watch this at some point within the future. I guess that's it. Ben, do you have any closing thoughts?
Let your portfolio dominate what you would love to do, but add enough variation to show that you can do more than just that. I think, add finishing stuff is important, and show that you are interested in it. Just keep growing. Like anatomy studies are fine, traditional background is fine. I'm doing this, I'm challenging myself, a little bit of a background story to it. Breakdowns, wireframes are important. They're always good to see. And that's pretty much it. There's some strong portfolios there.
On behalf of Ben and myself, thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you next time.